Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other socials for more. Enjoy. The dense grove of trees stood silent, their leaves rustling gently in the warm summer breeze. Aiden had wandered these woods countless times before, but today something felt different. An inexplicable pull drew him deeper into the forest, away from the familiar paths and clearings. As he pushed through a thick tangle of bushes, Aiden stumbled into a small, circular clearing he'd never seen before. Sunlight filtered through the canopy, illuminating two ornate wooden doors standing side by side in the middle of the glade. One was painted a deep navy blue with male etched in silver lettering. The other was a soft rose pink bearing the word female in golden script. Aiden's heart raced as he approached the mysterious doors. He circled them slowly, running his fingers along the intricate carvings that adorned their frames. There was no building or structure around them. The doors simply stood there, as if they'd sprouted from the forest floor. "What in the world?" Aiden muttered, shaking his head in disbelief. He'd explored these woods for years and never encountered anything like this. Common sense told him to turn back, to forget this strange discovery. But an overwhelming curiosity tugged at him, urging him to investigate further. Almost against his will, Aiden found himself reaching for the rose-colored door handle. As his fingers closed around the cool metal, a tingling sensation shot up his arm. He hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath and turned the knob. The door swung open with surprising ease, revealing not the grove behind it, but a warmly lit entryway. Aiden peered inside, his eyes widening as he took in the elegant furnishings and soft carpeting that definitely didn't belong in the middle of a forest. "Hello?" he called out tentatively. No response came. Throwing caution to the wind, Aiden stepped over the threshold. The moment both feet touched the plush carpet, the door slammed shut behind him with a resounding thud. He whirled around, but the door had vanished, leaving only a blank wall in its place. That's when Aiden noticed the changes. His center of gravity felt off, and unfamiliar weight pulled at his chest. Aiden's hands flew to his face, feeling softer skin and fuller lips. Long strands of chestnut hair fell past his shoulders. He looked down to confirm his worst fears. His male anatomy was gone, replaced by unfamiliar feminine parts. "No, no, no," Aiden whispered, his voice higher and softer than before. "This can't be happening." But it was. Somehow, inexplicably, he had been transformed into a woman. Aiden sank to the floor, his mind reeling as he tried to process what had just occurred. How was this possible? What kind of magic or technology could instantly change someone's gender? And more pressingly, how could he change back? After several minutes of panicked breathing, Aiden forced himself to stand on shaky legs. He needed to explore this strange house and figure out where exactly he was. Maybe he could find some clues about reversing whatever had happened to him. The entryway opened into a spacious living room with plush couches and a crackling fireplace. Large windows revealed a manicured garden outside, but when Aiden tried the front door, it was locked tight. He wandered through the rest of the lower floor, finding a state-of-the-art kitchen, dining room, and study. Everything was immaculately decorated in soft pastels and floral patterns. It felt like stepping into the pages of a home decor magazine. Climbing the sweeping staircase, Aiden discovered several bedrooms and bathrooms on the second floor. One bedroom seemed to be set up as a master suite, with a massive canopy bed and attached dressing room. The dressing room is what finally broke Aiden out of his daze. Racks of dresses, skirts, and blouses in every color imaginable lined the walls. Drawers overflowed with delicate lingerie and stockings. An ornate vanity was covered in makeup and perfume bottles. Reality came crashing down as Aiden caught sight of himself in the full-length mirror. A petite young woman with long brown hair and wide hazel eyes stared back at him. Her face was his, but softer somehow. Higher cheekbones, fuller lips, longer lashes. The oversized t-shirt and jeans he'd been wearing hung awkwardly on his new feminine curves. Oh, God. Aiden whispered, running his hands over his new body. His skin felt impossibly soft and smooth. This was real. He was truly in a woman's body now. Aiden sank onto the plush ottoman in front of the vanity, burying his face in his hands. What was he supposed to do now? He had no idea how to be a woman. How long would he be stuck like this? Hours? Days? Forever? A quiet sob escaped him as the full weight of his situation sank in. He was trapped in a strange house, in a strange body, with no idea how to get back to normal. After allowing himself a few minutes to wallow in self-pity, Aiden took a deep breath and straightened up. Panicking wouldn't solve anything. He needed to approach this logically and figure out his next steps. First things first, he couldn't keep wearing his old clothes. They were far too big and did nothing to support his new anatomy. As uncomfortable as the idea made him, he was going to have to change into women's clothing. Aiden rifled through the racks and drawers, overwhelmed by the sheer variety of options. How did women choose what to wear each day with so many possibilities? Eventually, he settled on what seemed like a simple, comfortable outfit. Cotton underwear, a soft bra, jeans, and a loose blouse. Getting dressed proved to be a challenge. Aiden fumbled with the bra clasp for several frustrating minutes before finally managing to secure it. The jeans fit snugly over his wider hips and rear. The blouse's silky fabric felt strange against his sensitive skin. Once dressed, Aiden reluctantly turned back to the mirror. The outfit accentuated his new feminine figure in ways that made him squirm. But he had to admit it was a vast improvement over his baggy male clothes. His long hair was a tangled mess, so Aiden picked up a brush and tried to work out the knots. The repetitive motion was oddly soothing. As he brushed, he studied his reflection, still marveling at how different he looked. His face was bare of any makeup, unlike the flawlessly made-up women he was used to seeing. Did all women wear makeup every day? Should he try putting some on? The array of products on the vanity was overwhelming. After some hesitation, Aiden decided to try just a bit of makeup. He'd seen his sister apply cosmetics enough times to have a vague idea of what went where. He dabbed on some moisturizer, then carefully applied a light layer of foundation. Some mascara made his already long lashes even more dramatic. A swipe of tinted lip balm completed the look. Aiden leaned back, assessing his handiwork. It wasn't perfect by any means, but he thought he'd done a passable job for a first attempt. The subtle enhancements made him look more polished and put together. A growl from his stomach reminded Aiden that he hadn't eaten in hours. He made his way back downstairs to the kitchen, marveling at how different it felt to move in this new body. His center of gravity was lower, his gait naturally swaying a bit with each step. The kitchen was fully stocked with fresh ingredients and state-of-the-art appliances. Aiden wasn't much of a cook in his male body, but he managed to throw together a simple salad and sandwich. As he ate, Aiden's mind whirled with questions. How long would he be stuck like this? Was there any way to change back? What if he was trapped in this female form forever? The thought sent a chill down his spine. After cleaning up from his meal, Aiden decided to do a more thorough exploration of the house. There had to be some clues about where he was and how he'd ended up here. He scoured every room, searching for anything out of the ordinary. But apart from the impossible door he'd entered through, everything seemed completely normal. It was just a lovely, well-appointed house. As the afternoon wore on, Aiden felt a strange heaviness in his lower abdomen. Cramps began to twist through his midsection. At first, he tried to ignore the discomfort, but it steadily grew worse. When he went to the bathroom, Aiden was horrified to discover blood in his underwear. It took a moment for realization to dawn. He was having his first period.
"You've got to be kidding me,"
he groaned, doubling over as another cramp hit. Aiden frantically searched the bathroom cabinets until he found a box of tampons. He'd never used one before, of course, but the instructions on the box seemed straightforward enough. It took a few awkward attempts, but he finally managed to insert one properly. The cramps continued to plague him as the day went on. Aiden curled up on the couch with a heating pad he'd found, marveling at this new form of misery. He'd always known periods were unpleasant, but experiencing one firsthand gave him a whole new appreciation for what women went through every month. As evening fell, exhaustion began to set in. The emotional roller coaster of the day, combined with the physical discomfort of his period, left Aiden completely drained. He trudged upstairs to the master bedroom, shedding his clothes and pulling on a soft nightgown. The silky fabric felt nice against his skin, he had to admit. Aiden crawled into the massive bed, sinking into the cloud-like mattress. Despite his racing thoughts, sleep claimed him almost instantly. He awoke the next morning momentarily disoriented. For a blissful few seconds, Aiden thought perhaps it had all been a bizarre dream, but as consciousness fully returned, he became aware once again of his changed body. With a resigned sigh, Aiden got up to face another day as a woman. The cramps had eased overnight, but he still felt bloated and achy. After showering and dressing in a flowy sundress, he headed downstairs for breakfast. To his surprise, Aiden found a note on the kitchen counter that hadn't been there the day before. The elegant script read, "My dear, I hope you're settling in well. I know this must all be quite overwhelming for you. Rest assured, you are perfectly safe here. Take your time exploring your new self. When you're ready to learn more, you'll find me in the garden." M. Aiden read the note several times, his heart racing. Who was M? How had they gotten into the house? And what did they mean by exploring your new self? After a quick breakfast, Aiden hurried outside to the lush garden he'd seen through the windows. At first glance, it appeared empty. But as he rounded a sculpted hedge, he came face to face with an ethereal woman lounging on a stone bench. She had ageless features and hair that seemed to shift colors in the sunlight. When she smiled at Aiden, her teeth were just a bit too sharp to be human. "Hello, my dear," she said in a musical voice. "I've been expecting you. My name is Maeve, and I have much to teach you about your new life as a woman." Aiden gaped at her, 1,000 questions bubbling up. But before he could voice any of them, Maeve held up a hand.
"I know you must be confused and frightened," she said gently, "but I promise all will be explained in time. For now, know that you were chosen for a very special purpose. The magic that brought you here and changed your form is ancient and powerful."
"But why me?" Aiden finally managed to ask. "And how long will I be stuck like this?" Maeve's eyes twinkled with amusement. "You were chosen because you have the capacity for great empathy and understanding. As for how long, well, that's entirely up to you. You'll remain in this form until you've learned what you need to learn."
"And what exactly am I supposed to be learning?"
Aiden demanded, frustration creeping into his voice.
"What it truly means to be a woman," Maeve replied simply. "Not just the physical aspects, but the emotional and societal ones as well. You'll experience all the joys and sorrows, the triumphs and challenges that come with femininity." Aiden's head spun as he tried to process this information.
"But I don't want to be a woman. I just want to go back to my normal life."
Maeve's expression turned serious. "I understand this is difficult, but I urge you to approach this with an open mind and heart. You have a unique opportunity to gain insight and understanding that few ever experience. Embrace it, and you may find yourself transformed in more ways than one." With that cryptic statement, Maeve stood and gestured for Aiden to follow her back into the house.
Over the next few hours, she began to instruct him in the finer points of being a woman. Everything from skincare routines to how to walk in heels. Aiden's head was swimming with information by lunchtime. Maeve conjured up a light meal for them with a wave of her hand, then fixed Aiden with a penetrating gaze.
"I know this is all overwhelming," she said kindly, "but you're doing wonderfully so far. Remember, there's no one right way to be a woman. You'll find your own path and style as you go."
After lunch, Maeve announced it was time for Aiden to venture out into the world. With a snap of her fingers, the front door unlocked and swung open. "The town just down the road has everything you'll need," Maeve explained. "Go explore, interact with people, experience life as a woman among others. I'll be here when you return." Aiden's stomach churned with anxiety at the thought of going out in public in this unfamiliar body, but he squared his shoulders and nodded. If this was what he needed to do to eventually return to normal, then he would face it head on. The walk into town was nerve-wracking. Aiden was hyper-aware of how different his body felt, how his hips swayed slightly with each step. He kept worrying that people would somehow be able to tell he wasn't really a woman. But as he strolled down the quaint main street, Aiden slowly began to relax. No one gave him a second glance. He was just another young woman out for a walk on a nice day. Aiden window shopped for a while, marveling at how different stores looked from a female perspective. Clothing that he would have barely noticed before now caught his eye, making him consider how it might look on his new body. He ducked into a small cafe for a coffee, carefully pitching his voice higher as he placed his order. The barista smiled warmly at him and struck up a friendly conversation. Aiden found himself easily chatting about the weather and local events, surprised at how natural it felt. As the afternoon wore on, Aiden's confidence grew. He browsed a bookstore, bought himself a cute pair of earrings, and even worked up the courage to try on some dresses at a boutique. It wasn't until he was walking home, laden with shopping bags, that Aiden realized he'd actually enjoyed himself. For a few hours, he'd stopped obsessing over his transformation and simply lived in the moment as a woman. Back at the house, Maeve was waiting with a proud smile. "Well done," she said warmly. "You took your first steps into a larger world today. How do you feel?" Aiden considered the question carefully. "Confused," he admitted. "But also intrigued, I guess. It wasn't as scary as I thought it would be." Maeve nodded approvingly. "That's a good start. Remember, this journey is about more than just learning to apply makeup or walk in heels. It's about understanding the female experience on a deeper level. The challenges, the joys, the unique perspective that comes with being a woman in this world." Over the next few weeks, Aiden continued to explore his new identity under Maeve's guidance. Some days were harder than others. He struggled with mood swings and insecurities he'd never experienced before. Shopping for bras was an exercise in frustration, and his second period hit him like a truck, leaving him curled up in bed with crippling cramps. But there were wonderful discoveries, too. Aiden found he loved the feeling of swishing skirts and pretty dresses. A girls' night out with some local women left him giddy with laughter and a sense of camaraderie he'd never known. And the first time he truly mastered a flawless cat-eye, he felt a rush of accomplishment. Slowly but surely, Aiden began to feel more comfortable in his female skin. He developed his own sense of style, favoring flowy bohemian dresses and delicate jewelry. His makeup routine became second nature. He even started to appreciate certain aspects of his new body, like his long eyelashes and soft skin. One morning, about 2 months into his stay, Aiden woke up and realized something had changed. The constant undercurrent of anxiety and discomfort that had plagued him since his transformation was gone. For the first time, he felt truly at ease in this female form. He rushed to find Maeve, who was tending the garden as usual. She took one look at his face and broke into a radiant smile. "You've done it," she said softly. "You've learned what you needed to learn." Aiden's heart leapt. "Does this mean I can go back to being male now?" Maeve's expression turned thoughtful. "You can if you wish. The choice is yours now. But first, I want you to truly consider, do you want to go back?" Aiden opened his mouth to say yes, of course he did, but the words stuck in his throat. He thought about all he'd experienced over the past months, the challenges he'd overcome, the joys he'd discovered, the deep friendships he'd formed with other women, the sense of self he'd developed. I don't know," he admitted finally. Maeve nodded, unsurprised. "Take some time to think it over. There's no rush to decide. Whatever choice you make, know that you have grown and changed in ways that will stay with you always." Aiden spent the next few days in deep reflection. He thought about his life before and the person he'd been. He considered the new perspectives he'd gained, the empathy he'd developed. He weighed the pros and cons of each option carefully. In the end, the decision felt obvious. Aiden found Maeve and told her with certainty, "I want to stay like this. I feel more like myself as a woman than I ever did as a man." Maeve beamed at him.
"I had a feeling you might say that. You've embraced this journey fully and discovered your true self in the process. I'm so proud of you." She waved her hand, and suddenly the mysterious door Aiden had originally entered through appeared. "This will take you back to your world," Maeve explained. "You'll find that time has barely passed there. You can easily explain your transformation as something you chose to do." Aiden hugged Maeve tightly, thanking her for everything she'd done. Then, with a deep breath, he stepped through the door and back into his old world, forever changed, inside and out. As he emerged from the forest, Aiden felt a profound sense of peace wash over him. He was returning to his life as a completely different person than when he'd left. But for the first time, he felt truly comfortable in his own skin. The journey ahead would undoubtedly have its challenges. Explaining his transformation to family and friends wouldn't be easy. Navigating the world as a woman would bring new obstacles he'd never faced before. But Aiden was ready to face whatever came his way. He had discovered strengths he never knew he possessed and gained insights he would carry with him always. As he walked towards home, head held high, Aiden smiled to himself. His unexpected adventure had led him to his authentic self, and he couldn't wait to embrace this new chapter of his life with open arms. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more wonderful content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.